And this is our state. This is West Bengal. And if we enlarge this, our then this becomes the flag. No, not of the. So this is our enlarged. This is our enlarged view of our state West Bengal. And this is Kolkata, widely academic. And and this is the enlarged view of Kolkata. And you can see this is Jagatpur, where our university is located at. And this is our university, Jagatpur University. And this is actually the administration building of our university. And this is our mathematics department, named under the great mathematician, University of Mangalam. And this is our center for mathematical biology and ecology. This is our classroom. And under this center, we have 4 faculties. This is Dr. Vishwa, he is an associate professor. Professor Deepak Fish, he is present here. He is the joint coordinator of this session. My colleague and friend, senior faculty, Dr. Rai, and myself, am working as the coordinator of this center since 2018. Yes. So let us go back to my song. The title of my talk is bifurcation and partiality in ecological system. So in the last 10-15 years, keeping has become a very hot topic. So the first question is, what is keeping? Keeping is basically a phenomenon in dynamical system that refers to abrupt, extensive, and prolonged changes in the system behavior, triggered by a small parameter shift over time caused by the environmental variation. So, examples include a sudden collapse of coral reef, a sudden collapse of coral reef, and a rapid transition of lakes from oligotrophic state to trophic state, glacier meltings due to rising global temperature. There are many other examples. For example, sudden insect outbreak or sudden disease out of the crops. These are examples. So the question is how to model this type of phenomena. This type of phenomenon is modeled by introducing a time-dependent parameter in your autonomous system. So you usually use autonomous system to represent different kind of physical phenomena. So if you replace at least one parameter, it's a constant in autonomous system by a time-dependent parameter, then you may observe if in your system. What are the physics or what are the cause behind this type of keeping film? Several local and bifurcation, several local bifurcation like parallel bifurcation or subtypical bifurcation may cause during this attraction shift at a remote pattern and your system may dip. Sometimes some global bifurcation like this is homoclinic bifurcation or sometimes boundary slices because to exist to attract see at a remote attractor. Then you get this type of keeping turtle. So there are basically fundamental keeping processes. One is called bifurcation keeping, popularly known as BTP. The second one is rate-induced keeping or RTP, and the third one is noise-induced keeping or ATP. In case of bifurcation keeping, what happens that your time-dependent parameter process the bifurcation value or critical value of your autonomous system, and your system currently see the current attractor to a remote attractor. That means your system experiences a critical condition. So in case of rate-induced TP, the time-dependent parameter changes very fast, and your system is unable to cope with this fast changes. So your system may, in this case, that is in the case of RTP, the parameter did not cause any bifurcation value. Without causing the bifurcation value, your system may. And in case of noise-induced peaking, the system peak due to the external random processing. So in this case, your system did not cause the bifurcation value. Your system did not do a critical threshold value of the parameter, but your system may. There are some other kinds of. Next. There are some other kinds of keeping, like phase keeping. This type of keeping occurs when your system is or shows some stable limit cycle, and the system feeds only from a particular phase of the limit cycle. That's why it is called phase. Not the entire limit cycle, but from a particular phase of the limit cycle. If your solution starts from that particular phase, then only your system. That's why it is called phasing. And in case of factor-induced keeping, sometimes the factor nature of the basic boundary is the system made. So we start with the one-dimensional system. We consider the celebrated model proposed by Larvik, that is the Snooze-Bardolph model, where X is the population density of Bardolph, and this is the ratification of Bardolph on the left side, and the right-hand side consists of two graphs. One is the growth graph, and Bardolph grows logistically within intrinsic growth in R to carrying capacity K naught. And this is the delta. This is basically due to oxidation of Bardolph by the bulk. So to consider this type of one-dimensional system, and this system has 4 equilibrium points: E0, EL, L means low, EU, and EH means high. So there are basically 4 equilibrium points. Out of this 4, the equilibrium E0 is always unstable, and the other 3 non-trivial equilibrium may be stable or unstable depending on the initial value. So if we plot the diagram of this system with respect to the carrying capacity K naught, then we find this type of behavior of the fluid. So as the system's carrying capacity is low, you do allow the bifurcation as cannot exceed this K1 value, then there is a saddle load bifurcation. If we further exceed this K1 value, then there is another saddle load bifurcation at this point. So there is a bistability between K1 and K2. And the domain of attraction is separated by this EU. So this EU is the unstable equilibrium point. So this separates the basis of the 2 equilibrium points E high, that is E8, and EA, that is the E load. So if you start your system with any initial value above this yellow part, then you will reach to this EH equilibrium point. On the other hand, if we start with any initial value from the below of this unstable branch, then you will reach to this EA equilibrium point. Basically, there is a distance between K1 and K2. So we are basically interested in this biostable region from K1 to K2. K1 is the lower biostable bifurcation and K2 is the upper saddle. Next thing. So if you want to study TP, then you have to make at least one parameter time dependent. So we make here the parameter K as time dependent. Now K is not a constant but depends on T. So whenever you make one parameter dependent, we call this parameter as a different parameter. Because it changes. So K is our different parameter. So there are different types of
let's this something meaningful.
your different
If you want to
parameter
train into the
maybe linear, so like this. So your different parameter may be linear. So this is the base value of the basic of the character capacity, and this is the rate parameter age. Or sometimes you may consider your different parameter as some impulsive form. You may consider AT as loading because our environmental condition is loading. So you may consider AT as a periodic function, or you may consider AT as a pulse-like form, etc. So first we consider our different parameters changes linearly. So we first consider the minus side. So KT equal to K0 minus A. So here K0 is 7, and then it starts, it decreases gradually at a rate A. So look at this bifurcation value. So your K0 value is 7. So you are like this. We are interested in the biostable linear. We start from 6.59 to 11.58. So we start from 7, which belongs to biostable region, and consider the initial value x0 is equal to 9. So this is the initial value of the x population. So you are exactly there. So now you allow decrease your KT following. So if we make this, then you see that your KT starts from there from 7 and then gradually decreases. This green line is the lower bifurcation value K1. So this is K1. So this is the lower bifurcation value K1. And the drifting parameter crosses this bifurcation value at time t equal to 82. And as time increases, then your solution of the non-autonomous system tries to convert this PH2, because you are here above this separate fields. So you will convert to this PH equilibrium in the absence of any T. So initially your system tries to convert from this PH2, but it fails to convert there, and eventually converts this lower equilibrium ELT. So there is a tripping from E high to L. So this is called the bifurcation tripping, because your drifting parameter has caused the bifurcation value at time t equal to 80. So that's why it is called the bifurcation tripping. Now look at this. Now look at this figure, that this is the t equal to 82 is the time where the drifting parameter crosses the bifurcation value and P equal to 185, this is the time where the solution reaches the lower equilibrium value. We observe that as the rate parameter increases, the tipping delay gradually decreases. So if we want to see the log behind this, we can see that there is a, so the tipping delay follows a power law when we plot this A and this tipping delay in log scale. This tipping delay is very vital because tipping delay is important because it provides a time window for reversing the tipping. So your solution is actually moving this way. So if you want that the solution should reach THP, then you have to make some measures so that your solution does not tip but go back to its desired state. So let us now consider different other kind of drifting parameter. We have considered the drifting parameter as an impulsive drifting parameter. So this is your drifting parameter. At is A0 till it process time will be. So if suppose M1 is given, M1 is 0.6, then you can identify your corresponding value M2 on this vertical axis. So what should be the value of M2? You can immediately get the value of M2 so that your system can fit. And if you desire that your system should not decay, then you have to consider the same value corresponding to M1 equal to 0.6 from this white here. And look there that as the intensity increases, the tipping region gradually. Next slide, please. Next. So we ask an important question. Is crossing a bifurcation is necessary for motion? The answer is no. Crossing the bifurcation is a necessary condition for bifurcation, but not for. For example, consider this type of impulsive tipping. So we have considered, we have given a impulsive tipping here, and your solution, this yellow curve, tries to tip, but as soon as you draw the impulse, it gradually goes back to its desired location or desired equilibrium pH. So here the tipping has this green curve that is a bifurcation value, a threshold value, but your system has not. So that means that crossing the bifurcation is a necessary condition, but not sufficient considered sufficient condition. So who is the thief? In this case, the accident space after crossing the bifurcation. So look at this. This green car is the bifurcation threshold, and this is the discrete parameter. Parameter crosses the bifurcation value at B, and then when it returns, again it crosses the bifurcation value D. So this BD is the accident time. Horizontal axis represents the time. So BD is the accident time. So this accident time is very important for your system to keep. Please. So we can calculate this accident time. E accidents like this. E accidents is the time BD, and this is equal to BC plus CD, and we can calculate that in terms of given parameters of the system. And we can impose restriction by simple calculation that if your parameter satisfies this restriction, that Tx must exceed the critical value of Tx, then your system will only keep. Otherwise, not.
We should just keep it.
Now we observe the effect of multiple impulse. So we first give one impulse. We first give one impulse that crosses the bifurcation value, but your system does not keep. Your system return back to the desired state TXT. Now the question is, what will happen if we again give a very small secondary impulse that even does not cause the bifurcation? So that is the we give another small impulse at time t equal to t3 after time tau. That even does not cause the bifurcation. But this small impulse can make your system to keep. Look at this. So your system keeps, but this is small secondary impulse that it does not cause the bifurcation. So thus, a small secondary impulse may cause a tipping if there is a history of the previous impulse, which was not sufficiently strong to cause it. The time interval tau, this time interval tau, that is the consecutive time of the two impulses between the two successive impulses is a determinant. So, what are the implications of this study? So, this idea may be explain various biological and physical phenomena. For instance, why the consecutively occurring modern earthquakes have catastrophic effects? Why is there a high mortality probability for a cardiac patient with multiple non-fatal heart attacks? How do repeated insecticide spreading over a short, pure, effectively controlled case? Would treating a cancer patient with repeated low-dose applications of chemotherapeutic drugs be better than providing a high dose at a longer? What should be the minimum dose and time interval in this dose? So I think we can try this multiple impulses to demonstrate this type of phenomenon. So if you are interested, you can go through this paper while we discuss very more about this impulsive thinking. It was published in 2024 in the Journal of Chaos. So now we will introduce periodic perturbations. So we will consider three cases. The frozen system has a fixed point at that time, and then a periodic perturbation is introduced. The frozen system has a stable limit cycle, and then a periodic perturbation is introduced. The frozen system has a chaotic attractor and then a periodic perturbation is it. In all cases, the frozen system has a biostability. By frozen system, I mean the autonomous system. And when you introduce the time dependent parameter, we call this system as open system. So again, consider this spruce bottom model as I discussed earlier, and we consider a RT, that is the intrinsic growth rate, as a periodic function, where I naught is the mean value, base value, epsilon is the amplitude of the period, and omega is the frequency. And we have this type of bifurcation of this corresponding closed system, that is when all parameters are constant. We have plotted this bifurcation. Are not, there is a two bifurcation, two saddle bifurcation. One at R naught equal to 0.38. The second one is R naught is 0.55. And this is the time evolution of the frozen system. We are mainly interested in the biostable linear. We have considered R naught equal to 0.47, so it is in the biostable linear. Look, the initial values below this saddle bifurcation, all solution converges to this lower equilibrium value, and the solution is starting from above this saddle bifurcation, all solution move to this equilibrium value. So what will happen if we now introduce RT of this form? So this is the effect of making the parameter R or replacing the parameter R by R naught plus X plus phi omega. So look at this here. So near the bifurcation point, some blue color trajectory, which are supposed to converge to this lower equilibrium, but convert this to the higher equilibrium. And if we consider that RT equal to R naught minus epsilon psi omega t, in this case, some red colored trajectory, which are supposed to convert to this high equilibrium point, rather convert this to the lower equilibrium point. So some trajectories interchange thereafter due to the interaction of this fluids. So we can plot the probability of this existence. So this is the probabilities of existence, partial tipping probability against the frequency omega for different values of periodic strength. So look, the periodic strength increases as the strength increases. So the probability increases as the strength increases. And also the tipping probability is frequency selective, meaning that in every cases the maximum probability occurs at some particular value of the frequency omega. So now we extend our study in two-dimensional system. We consider a play-predator model of this form. This is the play experiences and alienated, and we introduce the periodicity in the intrinsic growth rate of play with this form RT equal to R naught plus epsilon sin omega t, and this is the bifurcation of your flow system with respect to R naught. There are three bifurcations: classical bifurcation, top bifurcation, and homotelic bifurcation. So we are interested in this region where there is a biostability between an limit cycle and a extinction state. So now if we introduce the periodicity in this intrinsic growth rate R, then observe that the solution starting from this extinction basin, this is the dynamics of of the system in absence of periodic variation. That is the dynamics of the closed system. So this is the saddle separatrix that separates the two basin of extinction above this saddle separatrix, and this is the coexistent basins or basin of limit cycle below the separatrix. So if you consider any initial value, say I1, above the separatrix, then you will arrive to this extinction state. And if you will start with any initial value below this separatrix, say I2, then you will form this limit cycle. Now, if we introduce the periodicity, then what happens? That the blue trajectory starting from I1 crosses the saddle separatrix and produces an periodic cycle. So the extinction state exchanges the basin of attraction with the coexistence state. On the contrary, the red trajectory starting from I2, which was supposed to make this limit cycle in the absence of periodicity, crosses the separatrix and reaches to extinction. So there is a exchange of attraction between some trajectory. So you can find the probability of such exchange of stability. So if we draw the probability, so this is the initial points. This gray color is the initial points for which partial tipping occurs from the extinction state to coexistence in cycle state. And this pink region are the initial values which goes to the extinction state. When you consider the periodicity R equal to R0 plus epsilon sign. So this type of behavior we have observed for frequency value omega equal to 2. But if we decrease the frequency and make omega equal to 1, look at this, there is no pink color. So that means there will be no exchange of basin of attraction. No trajectory will cross the boundary and go to extinction. Only these gray initial values crosses the basin boundary and reaches the coexistent attraction. On the other hand, if we increase the frequency omega equal to 4, then this pink region and gray region diminishes. And this is the probability of survival probability. Survival probability means that solution goes to the extinct coexistence state in a state of extinct state. And this is the probability of extinction. That means solution goes to extinction state in a state of coexistence. So now we extend our study to three species model. This is the famous model proposed by Haskini and Powell in 1921. So S1 is the resource density, S2 is the consumer density, and S3 is the predator density. Again, we make this increase the growth rate of resource. We replace this R by RT, while RT is the expression R not plus sign. So we first this is the bifurcation diagram of this closed system while RT equal to R naught. When there is no time dependency, observe that there is a chaotic behavior. So this is a stable behavior, this is pure doubling bifurcation, periodic windows, and there is chaotic bifurcation. For if we start with initial value this. On the contrary, if we start with initial value this, then your system does not show any chaotic behavior, rather it shows a predator extinction behavior, predator extinction lead cycle state. So here this is the S3, that is the predator, it goes to extinction, but the resource and consumer stays in stable periodic orbit. So these are the oscillations. So we are interested in this biosphere where the chaotic attractor and the period of free limit cycle coexist. So this is the phase plane. We have considered two initial value IP1 and IP3. This is the behavior in absence of any periodicity. So starting from this initial value, your solution reaches to this chaotic attractor. On the other hand, if we start with this red color initial value, your solution will reach to this predator free limit cycle state. Now, as I introduce periodicity, then look at this. This red color initial value, IP3, which was initially actually produced your chaotic attractor. So this IP3, this IP3 produced your predator free limit cycle. Now it produces the chaotic attractor. On the contrary, this IP1 produced this chaotic attractor, but in presence of periodicity in the parameter RT, it now produces the predator free limit cycle. So there is an exchange of attractor due to this introduction of periodicity. So this is the plane section of the phase plane. On the plane is 3 equal to 0.51. So this black color is the basic boundary that separates the two basic. The white color basic is the predator free limit cycle, and inside this this is the basic of chaotic attack. This pink color basic this pink color initial points actually crosses this boundary and reaches to predator free limit cycle state. On the contrary, this gray color initial values crosses the boundary and produces behavior. This is for frequency omega equal to 0.6. So if we remove this frequency, then notice that there is no pink color inside this closed domain. And there is only some few initial values of gray color that crosses the boundary and reaches to the coexisting chaotic attractor. On the other hand, if we increase the frequency, then look at this. This pink color initial values accumulate near the boundaries. If further increase the frequency omega to 0.5, then there is pink initial values inside, but it only accumulates around the point. So what is the implications of this study? So system resilience cannot be solely determined by the static stability. If you study only the autonomous system, you may lose the dynamics of the system. But depends on how the environmental variability interacts with the intrinsic system time scale and basic structure. Population outbreaks, collapses, or extinctions may be triggered by environmental variability alone without crossing a bifurcation threshold. Because you have seen, in case of bifurcation, crossing the bifurcation is a necessary condition. But in case of partial tipping, crossing the bifurcation is not necessary at all. The existence of frequency-dependent probabilities further suggests that ecosystems may be selectively sensitive to particular modes of climatic variability, complicating prediction and management of studies. If the frozen system exhibits chaos, basin boundaries become highly convoluted along partial tipping to occur even for a state or from the classical. In case of chaotic system, we have observed that the pinch region is not only accumulated around the basin boundaries, it is spread over the entire. This challenges the conventional assumptions that resilience is primarily determined by distance to a basin boundary. So, if you are interested, then you can go with this paper, which we published in 2024 with in Icammwa. And this is my lab members, and this is Oyanoto, who has actually done this teaching work. He's doing his PhD under my supervision. And this is the man, Martin, you maybe know. He visited our center in 2023 with IMU C1 African Fellowship for 3 months. And he published this work with me in 2025, actually. And thank you very much for
Thank you so much, Bob, for that very beautiful presentation on spin and bifurcation. Very well delivered. And I want to that people here who are working on dynamical systems who would really want to interact with what Rob has presented. So I'm going to give space for questions, and then 1 or 2 here on for the physical participants. And then for the online participants, in case you have a question, you can also signify. We'll track you from that page. Okay, so are there questions in the house? Questions? Okay, there are questions. Okay, good. So I have 2 hands. You can also have a question. So but, let me start from off. So then I'll come to Dr. Benito.
Thank you very much. I about the question and how you're relating with some variabilities in terms of environment. I think the first one has to do with demographic variability, where they reduce some periodicity on the intrinsic growth rates. So, but we observe that apart from that kind of variability that exists with the graphic, we also have, like when you talk about seasonality or periodicity, we trigger by anything, we trigger by the climate. It could be, it will be as a result of climate or back rates or cysts. And so, but we have observed in some of our data we use for malaria in Nigeria, where you have observational noise, like because of the way the data are collected, and then you find out that some of these observational noise are not being captured by seasonal function, maybe some probabilistic approach. So how do you bring this into taking and bifurcation?
Okay.
That's very important, and I think this is very pertinent. But you know that this is a theoretical observation of in the case of ecological physics. So we have considered particularly the 3 types of equation, dimension 1, dimension 2, and dimension 2. So in case of Barnum model, that is the Barnum is also affected with the environment, and this is actually the case. What we have us in case of malaria or in other diseases. So basically, malaria and even diseases very much seasonal. I think it is actually in India we observe that dengue and malaria is very prevalent at the beginning of monsoon and at the end of monsoon. So the climate, the temperature, the humidity is very much conducive for the production of mosquito. So that is the place where we can remove this type of seasonality. And you can observe why it rain suddenly goes to a very goes to a peak. So this may be the reason because this fluidity actually make the population of mosquito to a lower level, to a higher level. And mosquito is essential to spread dengue or malaria like this. So you can definitely delay this study in case of an endemic model like dengue, malaria, or like this. The second case is thus how to relate this data. Yeah, we have not related this data, but this is the actually the qualitative behavior of the system, how your system will behave if you introduce this type of fluidity in the intrinsic process or in the carrying capacity of the system. Certainly, if you want to feed the data, then you have to consider, you have to proceed in another way, because I told you that there is another type of feeding that is for the noise-induced feeding. So that may be more important or relevant to study this type of data for.
Okay, do you want to say something?
You find what on population model to stable equilibrium. Ecological system, we also down a sparse particle model and then we get to stable equilibrium. One is diffuse equilibrium and another one is outbreak equilibrium. In your system, this will happen.
Yeah, that's okay. That is the EL and EL is low equilibrium. That is the equilibrium and EH is the high equilibrium. That is the outbreak.
Okay, thank you so much.
Right, thank you, Prof, for your presentation. Now, one of the parameters you used when you did the periodicity is a compressive parameter by partitioning the time and then the expressions. Now, I see it as a system with time scale difference. Now, when you are showing those diagrams about exchange of bistability and stability conditions, where when you study the frozen system, that is a closed system and open system, then you vary the parameters, there is exchange. And so what does that exchange? Is it that when you experience such, you now begin to guess that's an expected and of tipping or a change in that system. For instance, what Professor asked about adaptation in this able to model. Is it that when I have a model, I cannot begin to say if there is that exchange of instability, that I'm expecting that maybe in the case of document, maybe the allegations will be shown us where after we go through the converse of the generator, I expect that after when this happens, because I'm trying to relate it with attribution system, where if I have a parameter difference, I can expect that there will be a change in this level based on the parameter when I expand it. So I want to actually know that if I see that action of that stability, what I'll be prompted to think about the system. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Basically, we have studied the closed system, and then we have made our system open. So in case of of net induced bifurcation, or this is the this is indexed bifurcation technique. It is necessary to have two different ability. That is, it is necessary to your system verify it. But in the case of noise induced, it is not necessary. Second, what happens actually? In case of closed system, you have a bistability. That means you have three equilibrium one, two stable, and the intermediate one is unstable. And this boundary is true. But when you make the parameter time dependent, so then this boundary is not true. So it also oscillates with the frequency of your periodicity. So it goes like this, and this. So near the boundary, some trajectory, when it goes down, some trajectory may cross, and it enters in the domain of the other equilibrium. So this is the physics behind the equilibrium. And if you and the second question I did not actually get it. First one, right.
When we simulated that, I think we use gray and purple. One color will move to the basin of. Okay, let's see if I can write it. Now I can actually infer from that exchange.
Yeah.
Yes, what if I explain, what can I say that I'm expecting that this system is yes.
The effect of fluidity, your system goes to some limit like that. But in case of fluidity, it obtains the boundary and goes to equilibrium. That means you are expecting that your system will be fine. But basically, when the fluidity is improved, that means when the system becomes more realistic, when the system considers the natural fluctuations of the environment. So your expectation may not be, because you eventually reach expectation. So that is the importance of this.
I have a question, and I think it is still your line has been going on for bifurcation. The threshold value of a bifurcation parameter, the interpretation of it, for instance, when it comes to epidemiology, we deal with a very important parameter which has to do with the production number. And then at the threshold value 1, we say that we're talking about persistence. Once the production number is greater than 1, and then once it's less than 1, we talk about estimation of disease out of population. And now in case of tipping, so how do we interpret threshold value of the tipping parameter? Thank you.
The basic point is that you are considering an equivalent endemic model, right?
Yeah.
So in case of vector number, that means you are considering an epidemic model, and you study the stability of the disease state and the endemic state with the vector number outcome. You must acknowledge that these basic vector number are not consist of several parameters. Yeah. You have to identify the parameters which you want to make time dependent. Yeah. You make the time dependent parameter. That depends on the modeler. So and the system demand. So you have to make it are not parameter. If you consider it are not parameter, it is our bifurcation parameter. So you have to study two systems. First, the flow system, which does not consider the fluidity. So you identify the unknown, you determine unknown, evaluate the stability of the equilibrium point, and then you make your system score, or then you introduce the fluidity in this one parameter, and then observe how this unknown event below 1 whether what is the threshold value of the individual disease created in the individual. I think you will get that.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate that. I don't know, are there anybody from the online platform indicating to ask questions? Please, can you track that for me? New person online.
No one.
None, right? Okay, thank you so much. Please, can we appreciate God for that? Beautiful lecture, really. I'll see those things. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And then, please, one of the things you want to see in all these presentations, the fact that I had to look at the theme again, mathematical and what? Theoretical biology. And that means that you should be expecting to see some very deep mathematics already. And the speaker or the first keynote speech is already a testament to that. So I know that some of us who are from the ocean, the natural ocean to swim. Well, I also know that for our friends from the biological science, who will be very much interested into how this translates into reality. I also wanted to follow through because after all, you know that whatever becomes the method of approach, if the method of approach is not well grounded, then whatever comes out of it also may not be able to rely on it. So that's why whatever is being done at the theoretical level, we have to be very close attention to it. So that in the end, whatever we go back, we go and do with our models, and then all the simulations will be sure we are doing the right thing. Right. So thank you so much. I want to appreciate you. That was a very, very powerful delivery. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before I hand over the mic, I would allow our professor to give the word of thanks to our presenter. So just let's welcome, please.
Thank you very much. So, I ready from the University of Ghana, sent out my first ecology and biology. That was a very, very exciting talk. And it's actually provoked some of the things we are doing, especially point of bringing in non-autonomous system to build, which people are not really doing around. It's a very, 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 very good aspect of dynamical systems that we need to start looking at, especially when we are looking at the area of application. And most of us are working with epidemiologies and entomologies and all that, because we deal with the disease that are vector-borne. In Nigeria, we have malaria. I also would like to say the linear cases of malaria in India, and I think India and Nigeria have some level of similar climatic conditions and all that. So I really appreciate that aspect that you have just brought in this morning, because it's an area that we are really using in developing models for malaria, or national malaria elimination program in Nigeria. And the only thing is that we are bringing in real-time data in France, and make sure that we are predicting and using it to forecast and give them feedback. So we appreciate it. Can you give me a round of applause for this wonderful So I would like to also make a presentation, and I call on Professor. Yes, can you come around? Come around. There's a clip that will be presented to you. So thank you very much. Yeah, can you come to the stage? We want to make a presentation to you. So on behalf of the International Center for Applied Mathematical Modeling and Data Analytics, and then from our sponsor, National Mathematical Union, the Gates Foundation. We present this to you. Thank you very much. We are not clapping well.
All right, thank you so much, Prof. We appreciate that presentation. Okay, so while that presentation was going on, we have one of our very important collaborators and friend of the center who always come around to cheer us on, particularly because he's on the field, deals with mosquitoes, and wants to ensure that Nigeria is malaria-free, having to deal with the vector itself. But then, because of the understanding that whatever is done on the field, the quantitative aspect of it is also very important. So most of the time when we have conferences like this, that's done with the center, shows up all the time. He has traveled with us to Lagos sometime, just to come and be at what we are doing, and then give us perspective of what is happening there on the field, so that we will not go, we will not arrive at a tipping point. Because once you begin to model without the knowledge of what goes on in the field, what happens? You will enter into tipping point, isn't it? And you will just tip. All right, and you may not recover from that point. So please join me to welcome our dear Professor Larry Oko, who is in the building. Let's appreciate you. We are happy to have you. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. Now we would like to go for tea break before we return for other presentations. So let's rise up to go around, and then it's time for tea break. It's time to network. It's time to talk to people and to meet people you have not met before, and then exchange contacts, build your network during that time. So I want to believe our kitchen is ready. So let's go for our tea break. You have tea break at this right hand side of the hall. So your sitting is your right hand side. So it's my whole left hand. So you just proceed there and take your seat there. Thank you. So we'll return in the next 20 minutes for the next program to continue. Thank you and see you soon.